Tommy, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello.
Tommy?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
They're saying they can hear you.
Well, what do you know? So I learned a new trick. What happened was, and this doesn't happen too often, I just had no audio, so which means I would not have been able to hear Dennis. You could hear the video, the intro video and stuff, but nothing was working. And in the past, what I have to do is end the stream. When you end the stream, you lose the stream, and that's it. You have to create a new one, which is not cool. But if you just shut down the computer and restart it, thank you, Wes. And Kerbal thanks you too. Anyway, when you shut down and restart without ending the stream continues going on. So I can actually come back into my own stream, and in a year, I've never known that. So sometimes things happen for a reason. Let's bring Dennis on. It's been crazy. Hi, Dennis.
Hello, Steve.
Now I can't hear you.
Oh, no.
Interesting. I can't hear one thing you're saying.
Can the chat hear me?
Very interesting. So let me mess with this again. Try speaking.
Okay.
No, cannot hear you. I mean, everyone else can hear you, but I can't hear what you're saying back. And this makes little or no sense to me at all. So let me go to settings. God.
Dang it, Jerry.
Microphone is on default microphone, which it shouldn't be. This is the default one is garbage. Good microphone. It's saying it's on USB speakers. Can you hear me now?
I don't know. You got to check your speaker settings.
There. No, I hear you now.
Okay, you can hear me?
All right. Every once in a while, as you well know from computers, that they go psycho.
That they do.
They really do. And thank you, Anne. Really appreciate you guys putting up with the technical difficulties. I have to have a serious talk with Hal. And then I choked to death.
Don't die, Steve.
We're off to a good start. It's all Fred's start. Oh, here. Yeah, I just took his head off. That'll show him.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Now I can't get his head back on. That's Fred.
Oh, I like Fred.
Well, he's looking up because when you're standing on the floor, it's looking
too short.
Upright.
He's too short. He's got to look up.
Yeah, I know. Just like the one in the kitchen that night.
Is that the one that was the table that changed? Was the cutting board?
Well, it wasn't a table. It wasn't a table. It was a butcher block. And butcher blocks, the wood's about that thick on the top, and they're extremely heavy. And I couldn't figure out when I walked into the kitchen at 3 a.m. to get some water, why my late wife would have left that sitting right in front of the refrigerator door. It just, what the hell? I looked at it and I said, how did she even get it over there? Then it moved. And then it was something like that, much lighter skin. So the alien interview tape video has resurfaced. Some guy put it back up. The one that was smuggled out on the guy's wrist from Area 51. And of course, Whitley and I were fascinated with that video, and we got, it was Strange Universe. It was a program called Strange Universe. And they did, they were like one of the first to do something on that. And they had Whitley and myself come down there and look at it and comment on it, which they edited pretty much to make it sound like Whitley and I were convinced it was real, which we didn't say that, but that's how it is. They asked me about my professional background with makeup effects and creating creatures, and could that be done? And I said, yeah, absolutely, it could be done. But there were things about it that were very striking to me, and also to thank you, Earl. Geez, extra bells. And that was, although the lighting was dim and everything, there was something about the translucency of the skin color, even on that poor video quality, that, you know, I know most of the makeup effects people during that time. It was like 97.
Yep.
And I knew the people that could do that. Now, that's not to say that if they were paid a lot of money, they might have convinced them not to talk about it, but that company didn't have a lot of money. So that's, well, you know. And there was just so many things about it. And then there was this little green light that kept bouncing up and down. And we're going to run some of that because I'd like to get your comments on that here in a second.
Oh, yeah. I
that
just
really
recently rewatched it.
Well, it really weirded Whitley and I out for some reason. Afterwards, when we were going back home, he said, "Did that green light bother you?" And I said, "Yeah, it bothered me. It felt really familiar. I don't know what that was all about, but if they're going to fake something, I don't know why they'd throw that in, because I was familiar with it. So was he, and I think some other people were too. It was something that we knew." Of course, Rick Baker, said, "Well, it's just a guy with his hand in a puppet," and and he's the great Rick Baker, so everybody should accept his judgment. Although, I can agree with him. There's just something about that video I just to this day can't be sure of, because out of all the phony grays that people have made, mine not included, they were never really based on how they really appear.
Yeah.
Within reason, and that one was, and that's what really kind of stuck out. Also, it seemed to have sort of a life to it, which a lot of rubber puppets don't have. And I don't think it was foam rubber. Usually we use foam rubber for things like that because it moves very naturally. But the painting is something you have to really be good at to get that translucent feeling and depth. When we went to silicone later on in the 2000s, then that was possible because we could paint in layers. And silicone, as you know, is translucent. So
yeah.
Let's see, a lot of comments flying by here, and let's see if I can get that up so people know what we're talking about. And then I want to talk about Jerry, and maybe we can do a sketch of him.
Oh,
real quick, just something different to do. See, it's under present. Bigger file downloads. Oh, there he is. So hopefully this will just. It should.
Yeah.
There it is. How about that?
All right, we're looking at the interview suite at S4.
And there's that little light bouncing up and down.
The figure
when you watch it on YouTube, it's a little clearer.
In the foreground is the telepath, and behind the camera is a rigged seating area for observers. Although in this case, I believe the only other person present was a military aide.
What happened?
The alien is seated behind a glass partition in a
trying to get it to be full screen,
which is maintained biosafety level 2, the lowest designation. That's primarily for the protection of the aliens, not us.
Yeah, it's a little clearer on YouTube. One of the things that bothered Rick was the fact that it was behind the table. Actually, that's a shadow. I'm pretty sure that's a shadow. You can see where the table is. There's a shadow coming from something. I don't know. It's just something. I mean, what do you think, Dennis?
I was fascinated by the green flashing.
Yeah.
That looks a lot like an oscilloscope display, which is often used in medical instrumentation and other technology.
Yeah, it is.
And it seems like that's a reflection. Like the instrument isn't right in front of the alien. It's somewhere like to the side, and there's
or
something.
Could they be shooting through glass? And
there's something on that table that's bouncing that light back. So we're not seeing everything. I've used oscilloscopes in the past, and if you look at them sideways, that's what they look like.
He's trying to communicate with the alien, but he's
So I
getting
think the instrument might actually be facing the alien, or is facing us, but is off frame, and we're seeing a reflection. And whatever is reflecting is blocking his body.
There's no
Right,
direct
and you notice the
his
cheekbones,
space and the biocontrol area. That's the A
you know,
stepping
which
in on
people,
the right.
when they're doing illustrations and stuff,
Medical staff should be
of
there
these
by now.
guys, they often
They're
leave
slow
out
in
that
responding.
sort of sunkenness underneath.
Yeah, they do have that,
I
like,
have to say, the
it's
medical
almost like
personnel
their
with us
their
were
face
less
falls
than
off
first grade.
underneath their
Yeah,
eyes.
I mean, it's really close. Now, the eyes aren't exactly almond shaped and really pointed on the outsides, but it does vary, and I know it varies.
Yeah.
And those aren't really its eyes; those are its protective covers.
Yeah, the covers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Plus, they can get information
It's
that
very
way.
hard for me to watch
Yep.
this.
But it's sort of upsetting. I don't know. It just feels alive to me. And you know, after doing puppets and creatures from everything from Star Trek to Ghostbusters, you know, it just there's something I can't say for sure it's real. I never have been able to. But
I've always been up in the air on that one too.
it's very close. How does
Yep.
that compare with Jerry?
Jerry's a little grayer color. He's not as angular. That guy is like more angular, like underneath the cheekbones and stuff. It's very aggressive in the video, and Jerry's not that. It's not that fast of a transition.
Could that be lighting?
I don't think so. You know, I saw him like in the daylight, literally like last weekend, and like I got a good look at him, and it's the first time I really like looked directly at him like during the daylight, and he was just outside between the cars, and I was like, "Will you just stand there for a second?" And he did, and then he took off and did like literally a cartoon run. I mean, like a Wile E. Coyote kind of maneuver, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah, absolutely. They're very
very quick,
very fast, very very fast, and they love to go through things.
Yeah, I think he went through a tree or something, but it's just like it blur gone near the end. I was like, "Oh, that's how I know it was him," because that specific movement is so hard to describe, and even if you've seen it before,
yeah, it never gets old.
no,
Daylight, I saw one. I think, did I tell the story about coming out of my back shop because I heard somebody working on my roof, or I heard noise in the alley side of my house back up in Granada Hills, and it came out the door and looked up, and there was, you don't
I haven't
remember
heard
that?
it. No.
Well, it was a guy up there that looked kind of like Burt Reynolds with. He had obviously skin problems in his youth because he had that sort of pocked skin. But he looked kind of like Burt Reynolds, and he was wearing a gray sweatshirt, and it was sort of moth-eaten and had holes in it and stuff, and these dirty pants, or they were jeans, and I think bare feet. And he was like sitting reclined with his legs out right alongside the edge of my roof. And I said, "What are you doing up there?" And, "Oh, I'm just working on your roof." And I looked at him, and he's floating. There's nothing supporting him. He's just floating alongside the edge of the roof. And I remember my exact words. I said, "Wait a minute, you're an alien." As crazy as that sounds. And with that, he came down to the ground on the sidewalk next to me and looked at me, and then came right up to me, and it looked very much like Whitley's book cover. It was that type, and it smiled, and it went streaking by through the gate, which led out to the street. That's where I take trash from. And then so I ran to the gate, looked over just in time to see it start spinning, and it turned into like a dust devil of the same color and disappeared.
I've seen that kind of phenomenon as well. Oftentimes I've seen dust devils, and I wonder, is that really a atmospheric phenomenon, or is that them?
Yeah. You're getting some really crazy stuff tonight, folks.
We're playing it freeform. This is great.
Yeah. So Jerry, so what was the shape of his head like?
A little bit fuller than the tan one behind you. Kind of similar to the one in the video, but like I say, more subtle features. He's not that sharp looking.
Softer.
Yeah, softer, and he does have the almond-shaped eyes for certain.
Any heavy brow?
No, he's very smooth brow.
How long's the face? Any kind of jaw structure?
A little bit of a jaw structure, actually. He kind of moves his mouth, but he doesn't really talk. But I
Yeah.
have seen him kind of do that. It's almost like a chittering or a trilling noise sometimes. If something bad happens or is unexpected, he'll kind of do
Long
this.
neck?
Like,
Long
yeah,
neck?
long neck. Oh yeah, long neck.
And thin?
Very thin. Not quite as thin as you've animated, but he is very thin.
Any sense of tendons or anything like that?
Just underneath the eyes, there's kind of a little like.
I meant in the neck.
Oh, in the neck. Yeah, just a little bit.
I have seen at times an ear hole.
Yeah, he has like, it's almost like little, almost like small discs that you can just barely perceive where our ears would be. It's not quite a hole. It's almost like a membrane.
So the eyes are almond shaped. So they're pointed at the where they meet the bridge of the nose, and at the outside of the eyes where they reach the head.
Yeah, like
Are they
almost
slanted or level?
just very slightly slanted.
Very slightly slanted.
Yeah. He doesn't. It's funny. Like I've seen ones that had their really slanted eyes, and they almost look like angry because of that. You know, it's almost like how we do the like. "Arr!" It. He doesn't have that, but there is a slight tilt.
And so you were saying very full, not gaunt underneath. A little bit of cheekbone, maybe.
Yeah, he's got cheekbones.
How pointed the chin?
Not terribly. It's almost rounded. A
It's
lot
funny,
pointier than ours,
I already started drawing it rounded. It's maybe something's going on here.
but
So under the eyes, no heavy brow. He's just kind of full.
Mhm.
Little hint of cheekbones. And I'm just doing this in white and black. I work that
Perfect.
way. Nose, yes. I have seen the slightest hint of a bridge, a little bit of a shape of a nose, but not much, and then just the two holes, which are usually level. What did Jerry's look like?
Very much the same. Yeah, I like. If he turned sideways, you'd swear he didn't have a nose, but if you look at him straight on, you can. There's a hint, and yeah, the nostrils are totally level. It's an interesting observation about the nostrils.
Um, let's see here. Mouth. I see a bit of form. I mean, like it's not just like completely level flat and a little slit. I see a little bit of shape there. What did you see?
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a mouth to him. He's slightly more, almost more of a human look than some of the others. Some of the others is just a slit, but Jerry's got, there's some form there.
Hmm. rather fitting drawing him in the dark here. As my nose to run. Where are my Kleenexes? They're not here. Okay. I think I made the neck too long, which no, but then when you said it was very. Oh, thank you.
Assistance has arrived.
Yeah, well, whenever I go into the subject, my nose runs.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, well, we all have allergies from this.
Yep.
I have no idea where my allergies come from. I tell doctors. Okay. What about under the eyes and around the eyes? Do you get a sense of folds?
Yeah, like exactly one fold under the eyes, which
Yeah.
is kind of a defining feature, how I can tell them apart. I mean, they often look very similar to each other, and then you start to really look, and you're like, oh no, you are individuals. You do look slightly different from each other. Like they might be clones, but they're all at different ages or have had different experiences.
Well, we're all clowns. This is Yvonne used to call me her police artist. Now, of course, everything is just very rough here and very, very simple for right now. I don't want people to get too bored of my sitting here doing this, but and you're not going to be able to see it very well, I don't think. I don't know.
I think it'll come across.
Well, here's hoping. No, there's those cheapos. So a little bit of I've got no shading or highlighting on this or anything. It's just basically a line drawing at this point, and I kind of put in the little low-cut tunic that's I've seen from time to time. But often they look naked, but then when you look very closely, you'll see they are actually wearing something.
It's just so well-fitting that you'd swear they're not wearing anything.
Yep. They're wearing leggings. I don't know if this shows up or not.
Yeah, it's Jerry. That's pretty good. I mean, his neck's a little bit long, but yeah, no, that's what he looks
Yeah, I was
like.
thinking it a little bit long.
Yeah, no, that's him.
We'll define this, over the next few days. I'll play with this and give it more. In his skin color, you were saying he's a bit more gray, and you're in Judy Goldschmidt, she described it as sort of almost a granite color. One of the things that I noticed, and she noticed too, she said it was similar to like the skin of an octopus.
Yeah, they have a very strange skin texture.
Freckling.
Yeah, I think of dolphin, I think of octopus, I think of something that has different skin than us, but also I've actually met people that had certain conditions that have that exact same skin texture. Like albino people sometimes have that skin texture. So it's hard to describe.
This strange thought just came into my head that, and it's like, oh, come on. I'll just say what happened. I got this notion that dolphins in the future evolved to the point that they became them. Is that crazy or what? I guess anything's possible, but
yeah, I mean, there's been animals that came out of the ocean and learned how to walk. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
And dolphins, and they do have vestigial limbs.
it's been said, and this came up recently, that they are actually us from the future. And I've heard this a million times before, but I forget who it was that talked about it, but it was, he made a good case for it.
I could easily see that, especially if we had massive ecological changes.
Yeah.
You know, or if we had like a nuclear winter, you know, where we just don't have the sun, our eyes would naturally get bigger. We wouldn't really need any skin pigmentation because there's no heat coming from the sun. So we'd
Right.
all get really, really light skinned. And, you know, if we became spacefaring, then yeah, we wouldn't really need these big bulky appendages and we'd probably thin down quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, from a purely scientific viewpoint, that actually makes sense.
It was a show that Mary and I watched, I think it was, where they actually had, they showed some graphics showing how we might appear in the future as we continue to evolve based on what their studies were on the evolution of our own species. So, and it looked a lot like the Greys. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen similar science done for the Compsognathus, a type of
Mhm.
dinosaur,
Mhm.
and they looked at
Oh yeah.
how its evolution would look if it like was around today, and basically you get like a lizard-looking person. I mean,
Thank you, Ren. And
thanks,
also
Glenn.
we have the raptors.
Yeah,
Imagine if they, and since I think the same material has been floating around the universe like a dandelion seed and hitting worlds and seeding it with similar DNA, it's very possible that in another world that the dinosaurs were not destroyed, wiped out.
Mhm.
And if the raptors had continued to evolve, they were very, very smart, evidently, and they had hands and they stood erect. That
Mhm.
maybe that's why people are seeing reptilians. That another planet
Yeah,
that became.
I've often thought that maybe the reptilians are not from elsewhere and that they're actually just the evolved dinosaurs and they just went
Yeah,
underground
yeah,
or something or went into caves and somehow they're interacting with the aliens or the visitors or whatever it is you want to call them, and that's how we're seeing them and experiencing them. But I do get the sensation that maybe they're not from far away, they're from right here.
yes. There's been a lot of talk about that lately, and even Whitley's been talking about it. Well, the Earth is pretty old. There's been plenty of time for dinosaurs to evolve and go extinct and maybe rise up again, or maybe they did before. And there could have been other civilizations here that were sentient like us that didn't make it for whatever reason. And we look at ourselves and think, well, we're the first, and it might be very possible based on what some people have been researching that we're not. So yeah. Um,
Highly likely that, we're not the first and we won't be the last. And,
no,
maybe some
no.
of these things that supposedly went away just went somewhere else and came back or have been in a place that we can't easily access.
I got a message the other day. Did you read that message? It was typical of them. It's very short.
What was it?
I woke up in the morning and and I told Whitley about it, and I told a few people about it in the sport groups that we have, and it was simple. It said the hybrids are integrated. They will begin their work soon.
Oh, yeah, I did hear that. And yeah, I have been kind of communicating with Jerry. This is like early days with recontact.
Did you ask him
And
about them?
there was kind of a sense of like, well, we're ready, you're ready. And I keep, I'm trying to like engage the conversation and I'm like, okay, well, so I don't freak out, send me an image of you, send me an image of who I'm going to be seeing. And he said, okay, I can do that. And so he sent me, and it's like, it's so strange because when they send an image, it's like a photo flash. like an old
Yes, that's it.
school
Exactly.
exploding type flash, and then you get an image from them, and you know, okay, this is from them. And he sent me an image of a tan-looking alien or being, and very old looking. And I said, okay, well, that's frightening. You know, he's scary looking, but thank you for sending me the image so now I can adjust. And then he sent me an image of another one that's a new model. Like I've never seen anything like this.
Oh,
Smaller,
yes, you were talking about that.
like smaller bodied, and the eye coverings are almost metallic, like designer sunglasses that have that metallic sheen. And I looked at him and I went, what, you know, what is this? And he's like, this is the ready model. This is the like the daytime version. And I thought
Hmm.
that was very fascinating that, yeah, they're kind of transmitting this get ready people kind of message.
Well, sightings have been on the increase just recently, and so
Yeah,
who
there's
knows what's going on.
been just an
And
explosion
I
in
know
sightings.
when I get my images is usually in the morning when I first wake,
Hmm.
and then I close my eyes, and oh my goodness, I see all these geometric patterns and things, and then out of that develops like a photograph this perfectly clear image of a being. And one morning it was a woman sitting with her back to me wearing all white at a table. I couldn't see her. It's amazing. Other time they sent, or somebody sent me an image of something that looked like a heart with tentacles coming out of it. Just amazing stuff. And this is all recent. This has started. We got a question there from Luke. Okay. Yeah, I had spent a good deal of time, if that's the same person I'm thinking of, the one who walked out to the craft and put his hands on it, saw
Touched
the
it, yeah.
symbol. Yeah, I spent a good hour and a half on the phone with him when I was working for the History Channel on the UFO files, and I had to, and it was also for Out of the Blue, I think it was too. It was that James Fox
Oh, yeah.
show, and you see the craft that was triangular shaped, and you saw the symbols, you see him put his hands on it. That was all work that I did, so it was really amazing to be able to spend the time talking to the gentleman. And of course, I let him know that I'd been there, so it went on even longer than usual. Usually, I call people up and I get the information I need to recreate what we saw, and yeah, they try to debunk that case too. Every
Yep.
chance they get, they will. And there's a lot of people with millions and millions of views, billions of views on YouTube that are trying to debunk every single case we hold dear to our heart. So, but we won't mention names. I think you all know who I'm talking about because you've been writing to me and complaining to me about him. So, anyway, because he kind of sets you up like, this is a great case and he got all this great evidence, and then it's all crap at the end. So what
Dennis
is
tried to
new?
knock us down.
What is like we care, really? I mean, I care because there's a lot of people watching that stuff, and they get this whole guru thing going on, and they really take seriously what people like that have to say, and instead of looking into it for themselves and fact checking the person telling them these things. So they're very lazy, and half the time they won't do it. So no, I'm not heckling. Yeah, it's a piranha. He's back there somewhere. You can't see him. So what's been going on with you? And by the way, I loved your Facebook page. The image of your dog on its back with his tongue hanging out was just priceless. And I love the lizard people mug. That's very creative.
I'm quite a fan of the Y-Files and other, channels that discuss the subject with an open mind.
Yeah.
I sometimes will watch skeptics because I want to
Oh
see
yeah,
the other
sure.
side. I want
Watch
to find out,
Nichols.
yeah, how quickly can they knock something down, and what is their line of reasoning? Because sometimes it's solid.
What's their evidence?
Yeah, sometimes it's
what
solid,
is
and
their
other
path?
times it's not. Sometimes they're just literally grasping at straws. They're like, well, this could be CG, case closed. And I'm like,
Right.
Did you replicate it? No. Okay, well then that's an open book then. You can't attack something that you can't scientifically replicate. So, it's always been
Yes, sir.
kind of an interesting recent turn of events with a lot of sightings coming in. I'm
Mhm.
sure that a lot of them are in fact complete fabrications. These are things that people have made up, and they
Oh, well,
have
sure. Well, you can
they
spot them right away too.
yeah,
That's the
they have a
thing. Like
trademark
the
to
ones
them.
off Peru
Yeah.
with the triangle battle star or battle. What do they call it? It's not Death Star. It's the I'm not a Star Wars
Oh, the
guy,
Star
but
Destroyer
yeah, going
from
along with
Star
the
Wars.
saucers.
Yeah.
Yeah, really nice job, but it's fake. All
Yeah.
I have to do is grab it, capture it, go in, start counting the pixels. Sorry, Art, or my pixel counter. But you can tell without even doing that. If you're a seasoned visual effects artist like myself, who works day in and day out with 3D software and has since it hit the market back as far as the late 80s, then you know it right away. But then you'll see things like, have you seen the old gentleman in the UK? He looks like Stanley Kubrick, except the beard's more wild and stuff. And he's in the woods, and he'll set up his camera so it's looking at him, but behind him, up in the rocks and all the green, you'll see a little pixie come out, look around, run back in. And I've been fascinated by it because people really believe him. And I was looking at what was being done there. Camera's not locked off. So it is moving all around. It is handheld. And that's not hard to do because all you need to do is have one fixed point to track, to keep something registered where you want it to be. So it looks like it's really there. But there's so much more involved in it than that. And whoever did it, if it is fake, they really did a great job. They knew what we're doing. The animation is fantastic. It would have to have been motion captured, but then again, that motion capture would have had to been sped up. So I'm looking at this and I'm going through all the things that person would have to go through to get that done. And then he's not doing it to make money. And if you go to his page and you look over, you check out his background, you find out that 9 times out of 10, these guys don't have any money. So maybe they knew a friend that did it for him, but it's unlikely.
Yeah.
So you have to question, well, maybe it is real.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a little bit of video editing and tried to do that motion tracking, and once there's a 3-dimensional element, it really falls apart really quickly, because the background and foreground move. Your motion tracking needs to also move in and move out, not just left, right, up, and down, and that'll really mess you up in a hurry if you don't know what you're doing. And real good at computers, and I still have not quite nailed that 3D motion tracking, even for
you work with them a lot.
Just like attaching a logo to something, like a technical document, when you're like taking a video and you want to say, hey, here's what this item is. If you zoom in and zoom out, there you go, you lost it.
No, that's really difficult to do. I know. That's the thing. Here you and I we work with the computers, and I work with visual effects and have been since I worked on optical printers to get mats, tracking mats, and all that stuff, and shot on Panavisions and Aeroflexes and 35 millimeter. We did stop motion animation with rear projection, like Ray Harryhausen and some of the other greats did. I've done all that kind of work, so I know what it takes to fake something and get it on the screen, and I know how much effort you have to go through to really do it right so it doesn't look fake. And even then you can look at it frame by frame and you can pick it out.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff you just can't do that with because it's real. And yet you get these people who are skeptics that have no idea how a camera works, how video editing works, how effects, and they just say, oh yeah, my kid could have done that in Photoshop. I hear that all the time. Photoshop. They don't even say, After Effects in Adobe Premiere, because they don't even know the difference, but yet they're passing judgment on the video they're seeing, saying that has to be fake.
Yeah.
Which is really, it's a problem, but
It is. I mean, there's certain things that tell me something is a legitimate piece of footage. You know, that iris shape will copy over to things in the background.
Hmm.
And if you're out of focus, that iris will come back into different picture elements. And if
Yeah.
suddenly something doesn't have that shape, you know that was added. No matter how good you are, you can't trick light. And that's something that, you know, I've learned to look for.
Did you
And
see the photograph over the Capitol
uh,
recently?
no, is this DC?
Yeah. Um, in the foreground are street lights that exactly match what's in the sky, pretty much. And so right away, everyone said it's what's in the sky is a reflection of those caused by the lens. Now I've been working with cameras since I hung out with my grandmother when she was working for Ansel Adams. So I know my way around a camera, and as much shooting as developing and printing in dark rooms and everything that I've done over all these years, I've never experienced that. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but I, I just don't understand how someone would take a picture in the sky. It could be that they would take a picture of the Capitol, and then when they got home and looked at the picture, oh, look, there's a UFO there. But it wasn't that way if we're to believe the person who took the photograph. The person that took the photograph said they saw the object in the sky and they took a picture of it. And
Yep.
the odds that if he was meaningfully doing the picture on purpose, those street lights will, you know, with this lens will exactly give me that, and people will think it's a UFO. That's unlikely, not unless the person knows something about photography. But then you add to that all the other people that saw it, and you know, you don't know what to say or do. You know, luckily there were other videos shot of these objects flying over the Capitol just a few days ago at night, and they said it was airplanes coming into the airport there. So
It could be, but I mean,
sure, it could be.
a lot of people, you know, the cell phones, they have such small lenses that
Yes,
any sort of optical aberration just gets amplified in
that's
bouncing
true.
around because they try to shove in a lot of elements into such a small space. And you know, I've used a digital SLR, and you don't have that effect at all.
No,
But you do get lens flares, and they have that
yes, you
very
do.
symmetrical effect. So it's
Right.
like it always echoes around the center of the image.
They
So you
mimic the
can,
iris.
yeah, you can
Always.
totally tell exactly where the reflection is coming from. And
Right.
you know, I almost wish that cell phones came with the, you know, how to use a camera manual so that people wouldn't be confused. But
Yeah, well, they're not very good for shooting UFOs, and you know, and I pointed this out several times. I mean, you know, you could see an airplane fly overhead, and from your eyes, with your naked eye, it's very clear, and you can make it out, even if it's small. That's a Cessna 172. That's a Cherokee. That's a Citabria. You know, I can tell the difference in them. But if I suddenly whip my camera out and just take a picture of it, it's fuzzy and blurry. And if I zoom in, it's fuzzy and blurry. And if I zoom in with the iPhone to get closer to it, it's blurry and fuzzy. If it's sitting 30 feet away from me, it's nice and sharp, you know, because it's a bigger object and it's right in front of me. And so UFOs, that makes it really hard. And so I say to you, Mr. Tyson, that you know, it is an excuse not being able to get good photographs with my 4K iPhone.
yeah, and it's,
Guy,
you know,
again, guy I don't think knows much about photography, but
the
so
only good photographs I've ever been able to take of an airplane is with a really, really large lens.
yeah,
And once you do that, then you have trouble finding it because you're
right.
so zoomed in.
Yeah,
You're like, where to?
that's
You kind of have to
absolutely.
wait for the
And Mary,
airplane to fly into frame and take the picture.
so Mary's had that same problem in the past when I'd be flying one of my radio control planes, which are good size.
Yeah.
But that same problem, it's just hard to follow it. You zoom in and to get a good look at it. And if it moves out of frame, trying to find it again, you have to zoom back out, try to find it, zoom back in again. And in that time, they've gone back to Alpha Centauri. So, so what's been going on with you? I mean, we've talked about all this stuff, and our hour is getting closer to an end. And I think everyone would love to hear what's the latest with you and in your
Sure.
experiences.
As predicted, Jerry returned, and
Mhm.
the first interaction was just getting touched on my leg. And the thing that's funny is that I have partial paralysis in one of my legs, so I can't feel that leg anyway. Like, you could have stabbed me and it wouldn't have any effect, but I felt the touch, and I felt like 4 fingers and a little just static charge, and I turned and there was no one there. And then I just heard in my mind, "It's okay, it's me." And then I looked outside and I could see him out in the yard just walking around the trees. And I kind of thought, what are you doing out there, bud? And he's like, well, we're getting ready. We're learning the path of things out here. And that was about all that happened, like the very first time he returned. And then later, he's been sending me images, and I'm like, well, why are you guys just wandering around outside? I don't understand this. And kind of they explain that they have to move with the way life moves. And I thought that was a very interesting way to put it. We have a lot of deer out here and other like wild animals, and it seems like they have to get used to moving around them and not, getting trampled by a deer because they're little tiny guys. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. So there's communication going on, and I like I said, I saw Jerry in between the cars, and I laughed when he ran off because it seemed like such a comical way to move and how to interact. And when I looked right at him, he kind of sent this thought of like, how can you see me? And I said, well, I learned. I I don't know if you guys taught me or I taught myself, but I can look right at you. And he was like, well, I shouldn't be visible. And well, I see you. And then he went, all right, you can look at me. And then did that and it took
Yeah.
off.
How are they getting to your environment? Do you ever see anything other than
Yeah.
them?
Yeah, no, it's funny. I call it Jerry's Cruiser because it's so specific. It's an orange spherical object. And even before I saw the object, other people in town saw it. And they describe a strange squiggle of orange light in the sky. And I go, I've seen that. That's when they move in and out of our reality. It's like when they're here and they're not here, in between, it makes no sense. Like you look right at it and you're like, why would anything fly that way? Does it, why would you do a bunch of squiggles in the sky? Wouldn't you just zip off to the left or the right? And they don't. It's like they're shifting, and it doesn't make sense. And I think a lot of people, when they see a UFO that does that, they kind of discount it because they can't imagine that an alien species would fly in bizarre patterns. And I think
Yeah. Well,
it's
we,
that they're
we
not.
base everything on how we fly.
Yeah. And yeah, I've had a bunch of people report to me that they've seen this orange orb, and then driving just through town, up on the hill behind me, I saw just that bright orange, almost a fire color light, just hovering, just moving very, very gently. And I was like,
Did you
that's him.
did you watch my film? But something is there.
Yes, yes, I did.
So you remember the orange ball?
Yep.
Yeah.
Very close. Very, very close.
Yeah. I went. Well, they're seen a lot. They've been seen by a lot of people, but they're usually um, not thought of as being some sort of vehicle or way of transporting from one place to another. People look for the metal ships all the time, and oh, look, there's a flying saucer like Billy Meyer saw. And, people want to see that. And then when they see something that's like that, they think, well, it's a meteor or it's some kind of ball lightning or,
It has
yeah.
an organic element that is hard to describe, and you wouldn't imagine has anyone inside of it.
No,
You almost think that's too small. No, there has to be room for engines and stuff, and nope, not needed.
no, there's no engine there. It's something that actually transcends space and time, I think. And when it's doing it, it has that. When it comes into our physical space, it takes on those characteristics. I could be wrong, but there's just a sense that I get. So, and then
Yeah,
again,
I feel like it's almost like an eggshell or something. That's not like,
yeah,
I wouldn't, like if you were to hit it with a hammer, you'd be like, oh, I could probably break that. It's not something that makes sense to our regular reality of like, this is how you travel around.
yeah. This stuff is very strange, people. It really is. I mean, it's Carl, bless his heart, Sagan said it right when he said, "When we meet aliens, they'll be stranger than you could ever imagine," and it couldn't be any stranger, and downright comical at times.
Yeah, that's the part where I think once you reach like a level of acceptance of like this is happening, you get open to the idea of like, well, they could be funny, and like some of this is kind of funny to discuss because
Well,
it's
it's so ridiculous,
yeah,
maybe based on our understanding of reality. And I mean, I always go back to the communion letters and the two individuals who wrote letters in describing the same event that they both experienced, but didn't know each other was there. They saw each other, but they never talked to each other at the time, but they described each other later on. And that was the whole thing that was going on right off to the side of a major freeway when they saw the clowns and the big billboard and all that wasn't a billboard. And it's like, what are the odds of that, skeptics, that two people who don't know each other would write and describe each other, and describe the same event like that? I'm sure that Michael Shermer and would have things to say about that. And I respect Michael. I mean, I really do. He's a very intelligent man, and I had dinner with him one night. He was very, very nice. And on most things, I agree with him that he comments on, except this subject, which, he's well out on the fence on, but, he's not a bad person. I don't think Joe Nichols is either, but he's a bit more pompous than Michael. So, I've dealt with both of them. And then, what's the guy that was a skeptic for NASA? Can't remember his name now. Right on the tip of my tongue. No, it wasn't Gold. This guy was the local skeptic, would always come on during the 90s, but he always ended it by saying, I don't know. He's the one that said that Barney and Betty Hill described the events they did because they watched a Twilight Zone episode, and there was one where they had the aliens with the guys with the black eyes, and that was about, I think Chill Wills was in that one, and he's the one always telling the tall tales, and he finally actually gets abducted by aliens. It was a great one, but that's a hell of a stretch to me. So James Oberg, I think
now it's on the tip of my tongue. Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, their name is close.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about Michael Shermer, Lynn. So I was okay with him. I was on a number of talk shows during the 90s, and he's sitting in the audience, and he'd always hit me with things, but he was okay. You have to kind of let it roll off.
Well, skeptics can be, even very aggressive ones can kind of be a reflection of, what really happened to me. You kind of have to like hear what they say about like, well, it couldn't possibly be this, and then open your mind to go, but could it? And it sometimes opens up memories or gives you a different viewpoint on the experience. And I think that's something that it's kind of hard to be open-minded and also be accepting of other viewpoints and other people's experiences. It's like, ask people to report about a car accident. You'll get several different reports with conflicting knowledge. Did they all see the same thing? Yes, they did. Did it really happen? Yes, it did. And, kind of go from there. But you could always find somebody who's like, no, the car accident never happened.
And then there's the monkey experiment.
Yep.
You've seen that on YouTube? Have you all seen that on YouTube, where there's all these people dancing around and and you watch it and no one sees a guy in a cheap gorilla suit going through them? It's amazing how many people miss it.
Yeah.
Morgan, how many times you've seen the Greys in total sounds like you see them every day. Or he's asking you. Maybe he's asking me. Or it does say Steve. I don't see them every day. I've never seen them every day. Back during the 90s, I saw them a great deal. But it was not every day. I did have experiences during the 90s weekly, sometimes several days in a row. It was exhausting. I would remember a lot of it, but I would remember it after I woke up in the morning, face down in a weird position with the covers off and all that kind of stuff. And I would have a very clear memory of it, but everyone told me I was just having dreams. But yet I remembered them consciously, not as dreams, if that makes any sense. And then, of course, I went to Yvonne and I had hypnosis. And yeah, I know about hypnosis, but it did bring out a bit more detail, but I did remember. But I have seen them when I've been fully awake, and I knew I was fully awake. But the weird thing about it is, and I'm sure Dennis will agree with me, is that you know you're fully awake. You're in your day or you're in your evening, and this happens to you, and you see this thing, and you experience this, and then you wake up suddenly, and you're left confused. Wait a minute. I know I was just awake. I was sleeping? Really? And there
While
you can
standing up.
it's things like, or while driving
Yeah.
down the road, and it's like, I don't remember the last 2 hours of driving. What the hell happened? Kind of thing. So the whole dream thing, you have to, I kind of look at it from their point of view. They're trying to protect us or something. I don't know for sure what, but it's very convenient for you to suddenly wake up and then you pass it off as a dream. And then anyone you talk to will either pass it off as a dream, and a professional would say, well, you need to take these pills because you're paranoid schizophrenic. It goes on and on and on, but I think it happens the way it happens for a darn good reason. And there's a certain part of it that where they want you to realize the difference. They want you to know it really happened. They don't care if anybody else does. And then there's the old line, you agreed never to talk about this. But that's when we were kids. Did you get that line when you were a kid?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I for me, it's now that I understand kind of how they operate, it feels almost like it's a rubber band effect. Like when they're there, the rubber band is stretched and then it lets go and you're back to normality.
That's great.
And then you're like, what? I wasn't in normal reality. So did that actually occur? And I think the first time that I saw Jerry completely consciously and not have the rubber band effect was literally last weekend. I was, doing the dishes, and I was like, it didn't snap back. I didn't get that effect when he took off. And I was like,
you just got asked if he appears in your dreams.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean they do, and because they know what that state of mind really is all about and how to move within that realm very well. They're experts at it.
Yeah.
So, okay, you got another question.
Oh yeah, that's about Jerry knowing this group, and because I'm not afraid, he asked why I'm not afraid, and I said, well, I'm with Breaking the Silence. And they're like, oh, Steve's group. I'm like, how do you guys know this stuff? And they're like, we know everything. We have computers. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you have computers like we have computers. That kind of makes sense. But
we have their computers basically, or maybe they're ours from the future. I don't know.
But it seems like they can detect intent, and it's like they can feel when a group has come together and is ready or accepting or supportive. And
well, they want us to come together.
Yeah. And it was a really good feeling to have that kind of acknowledgement from their side, as opposed to just us.
Sure. Well, I'm sure that the people listening, and you know who I mean, are terrified by all of this. But they know it happens when they get involved when they're not supposed to. So they hesitate, I think. So there's a lot of things that, as I'm sure you know, and I know, and a lot of the rest of the people here have experiences know that we're not going to talk about publicly and online among ourselves, face to face, and in the sport groups, something like that. Yes, but there's a lot of things that we have to be careful with. Hey, Susan, because there very much is something going on that's evolving right at this moment that I'm very happy to be part of and included in, as I'm sure you are, and many of the rest of you here are. That'll make me more nervous.
No, it seems to have taken a turn for the better, I think, especially like the second time around. It
Yeah.
seems like they're not here to scare me anymore.
No. No. They're not the beings to be afraid of. In fact, we shouldn't be afraid of anybody. We should stand our ground, and not give our power up to humans, who are the most frightening and scary thing I've ever encountered.
That's true.
So, and wow. So as they said, the hybrids are integrated, and soon they'll begin their work.
Yep.
So it'll be very interesting to watch this evolve. So it's been great having you back again. We're going to have to do this again because it's a lot of fun. And really, it's seriously, as we take this, this phenomenon, this experience we're all involved in, there's nothing wrong with enjoying it or having fun with it too.
Absolutely.
Because that's the end of the fear.
Yep.
And once we lose that fear, a hell of a lot more is going to open up to us about why this is happening, what we're part of, what's evolving. And it's hard. It has to happen in stages. And it's been going on since we were kids. And I'm glad to be here. What about you?
Absolutely. I want to thank you personally for creating a welcoming, loving environment where we can discuss these things. And
You're very welcome.
even just in the chat and things like that, everyone is just fantastic. And I want to thank everyone here. I see you in the chat over there, and different, questions about different things. And, I just hope this continues in such a positive vein.
Yeah, it will. It's up to us. We're the ones that have to do it. And I think that's really what, for lack of a better, they want us to do. Really do. And we need to turn things around and make it a better world.
That's the message I'm receiving too.
Yep. Well, with that, I will thank you so much for being here tonight. And it was just wonderful. Thank you, Dennis.
Absolutely.
So much. And thank you, Jerry.
I will let him know.
Okay. Well, I think you already know. But yeah. Wes, thank you. You got to get one in there at the end. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for being here tonight and enjoying this wonderful time we've had. And we're going to do more. And I'll finish that sketch up and post it soon. So
awesome.
Love you guys. And we'll see you soon.